Hi, soul friends. Welcome back to another episode of Minutes on Growth. Today, I have Jonathan England with me, founder of Earthwaking Eco Village and the author of If I Die Before I Wake. Welcome.
Hey there. Welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being on. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about this eco village? Because it sounds really interesting.
Yeah, so we're down in Costa Rica. This first one is it's on a 5 acre property. We've got about 25 homes or casitas on it. Uh, there we'll max out having, maybe probably about 35 people total will live here permanent, and then a lot of people coming through as well for we have events and things going on down here as well. But yeah, it was a manifestation of a dream. I started doing personal development several years ago, about 10 years ago. My first thing I learned real estate investing, and it was just I got a recipe basically from a guy on TV named Dean Graziosi, and wound up becoming his number one student in 2012. But once that one thing shifted my life, I said, well, I got to get more of this. And now I had money because within my first 18 months, I'd made 400 grand. Within 2 years, I built a multi-million-dollar empire. So I'm like, I know where I got those fruits. So I'm going to start doing more personal development. Now I've, invested over $500,000 in my personal development. But what I noticed when I started going to those events, uh, it was like a different world that you'd step into. So when you go to an event and everybody's got a purpose and a vision and goals and dreams, and they're all united, not specifically around their specific dream, but that to have a dream and to follow it. And
Mhm.
it was so great. It felt alive there. But then I'd go back to the old world, is what I call it, the old world, and everybody's dead. And then and you start, dreaming too big, and people just want to tear you down. So I was like, what if you didn't ever have to leave? What if you could go do the work and then you didn't have to leave and go back to an old world? What if you could just live in the new earth? And so that was kind of the idea that sparked it. And now it lived in me, and now until I lived in it. Now I live in the first one. And again, it's a prototype. We're going to be expanding these all across the planet. We've already got our next 50-acre property that we're about to start working on too.
That is amazing. Like you're literally creating a space where everyone's level of consciousness to some extent is on the same wavelength. Am I right?
They're at least heading in the same direction. So I
Okay.
always say I don't stop hanging out with people who share a common past, hang out with people who share a common future. And I
Mhm.
say I don't really care where you came from, I only care where you're going. Do we share a common future? We're going in the same direction. If so, cool. Let's hold hands and walk home together. If not, take your path wherever you're going to go. No big deal. So there's different people are at varying degrees along the journey of waking up, but doesn't matter as long as they're. I'd rather hang out with somebody who's super low conscious but on their way to
Mhm.
awakening and heading full speed ahead versus somebody who's like gone really far on the journey and turning around and going back. I'd much rather be somebody who's actually moving in that direction rather than somebody who's stagnant or going the other direction.
Got it. So the same intention is there to
Yeah,
kind of
just
move forward.
yeah, awakening, and we specifically how we say, how do you know the degree in which you're awake is the degree in which you take responsibility for your reality. So if you're like, you know, 60% responsible for reality, but 40% you're blaming on the president or on COVID or on your mom, your parents, or on your children while you're upset, whatever percentage you're blaming somebody else for your circumstances or for your experience, that's the degree in which you are asleep. So as you take 100% responsibility, you fully awaken.
Oh, I love that. So that's where it comes from. Because on your website, when I was reading about the village, it said, a space where residents take 100% responsibility for their thoughts, feelings, actions, and reality while working in harmony with nature and each other.
Yeah. So you'll it appears without, though it is within. What happens? So there's faith without works is dead. A lot of people they'll do they say they're doing the inner work, but I'm suspicious because you'll know them by their fruit. If their outer world is not shifting, then that means I can't. I mean, you can be building the roots, growing the roots before it starts to show up. But at some point, there should be some root. There's some fruit showing. At some point, the outer world should be reflecting the work that you've done on the inside. So we're doing both the inner work, and we start with the inner world. So we're building a new earth from the inside out. So we take 100% responsibility. We look at the world as our mirror. We don't see the world as it is. You see the world as you are. So if there's something in the world that I don't like, I find that judgment inside of myself. We take full on responsibility for that, get the judgments out of us, and then there's a new action from the new identity of someone who isn't, because the only thing we're in control of is our smallness. So you're letting go of your smallness by letting go of your fears, your lies, your illusions, your judgments, your limiting beliefs, and then take a new action from a new identity, and then your environment starts to reflect what's going on inside of you. And so I live in heaven on earth, and it really is. It's amazing. We got food. The whole place is just a food forest everywhere. There's food everywhere. The whole thing is just filled with food. Got our own water. We're all on sustainable energy. We've got like solar panels for everything. It's just we're severed a dependency upon that outside sick system. So we're completely sovereign here, and we can eat freely of every tree. So it's the return
Wow.
of the garden.
Super powerful, super, super powerful. And this, the intention behind building the village was, to create exactly as you said, heaven on earth. And I would love to know, what was the intention behind the book, If I Die Before I Wake?
So the book that came about, so there's three parts to the book. It's the path, the proof, and the process. The path is the roadmap, and this roadmap is 5 levels of consciousness, or 5 states of conscious orientation, 5 ways to perceive reality from. And so the first part outlines the 5 levels. The second part is the proof, which is my journey through the 5 levels. You can see it in you'll see the progression through my story. And then the third part is the process, which are the tools, basically the cheat codes, because there's only one way to learn, it's through failure. But the caveat is it doesn't have to be your failure. You can learn through somebody else's. So I share with you, okay, these were the fail. Don't do this and do this instead. And you can transcend in the trance of each level as you progress through. So what had happened is I went through this journey, and then I was driving one day, and suddenly my hand starts. I had my notebook next to me, and I opened up my notebook. I was driving across the country, and my hand just opened up the notebook, pulled out a pen, and started writing. And it was writing down these 5 levels, and I
Wow.
was like, okay, what are, and then as they were coming through, at first they were labeled, and then I started distinguishing what the levels were. And it was just my journey. Okay, from this time of my life to this time of my life, here's the way that I was perceiving reality. Here's the actions that I was taking. Here's all that, and I could see distinctly the difference on all those. So then it came into form. Basically, the inspiration became formation in this outline of it. And then I knew I was supposed to write this book, but I kind of just postponed. And then one day I got very clearly I was supposed to fast, and I agreed to fast. But I thought I was going to just do a 5-day fast. But so at this point, I'm having conversations with God. It's like being God, and I'm arguing with God, because now God's like, I said, okay, I'll fast, because God's telling me fast. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it. 5 days. But he didn't say 5 days. I said 5 days. And then afterwards, he's like, okay, you said yes. Well, it's 40 days. And I'm like, there's no way I can go 40 days without eating food. That's impossible. So then I said, all right, you know what? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. That book that I'm supposed to write? I'll write the book. And when I'm done writing the book, then I'll get to eat. Now, God didn't say yes to this, but I just went ahead and started writing the book. And I just sat down and I just started typing. And I could have called the book if I die before this book's done, and I get to eat again. So, but the whole thing was written in 2 weeks. It was completely done, because I had one job, was to stay out of the way. And so it did. How the book is how it came through. It's just because it was channeled. There was a channeled text. I got out of the way, and it just came through exactly as you receive it. Except for, editors came in and just made sure I didn't look completely stupid, because my sentences might have been run on or something. I don't know, whatever. But other than that, that's how it came through. And I wound up doing the 40-day fast. Even though I was done in 2 weeks, I wound up doing the 40-day fast. And so that's kind of how it came to fruition.
Wow, super powerful. And I always say this, I say we are simple We're simply just vessels for the creative force to channel itself and manifest through us. So, kind of exactly as you said, stay out of the way and allow the words to come through you and, onto the piece of paper and, out in the hands of hopefully millions of people. Powerful.
Yeah.
Right.
Later, I found out somebody was talking about if you write a book, you can't be the writer and the editor at the same time. You gotta pick. Well, luckily I didn't. Because my ass was on the line. I gotta get this thing done quick. So I didn't have the luxury of editing, which made it work so well.
Mhm.
And so I just did it the right way, not even knowing. I just kind of stumbled into it, not naively and ignorantly, just stumbled into doing it a way that worked so
Wow,
well.
that's
And then I
amazing.
kind of been doing it ever since. Like now, ever since then, my it's been the same. My one job is just stay out of the way and just let whatever's coming through come through. And how I know how well I've done by how much I was out of the way. If
Wow.
I'm ever speaking and presenting, I can always look and say, were you there, John? Were you standing up and blocking things, or were you completely out of the way? And as long as I'm out of the way, then I know I got my job done.
I love that. It kind of reminded me of Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he would always say that when he would write a book, he would just go there and kind of let the pen do its job, and he would just, he was just the holder of the pen. Um, so super, super powerful. I love that. And you were saying that the book is dividing into three parts. In the first part, you kind of dive into these five levels of consciousness that kind of represented, you have experienced these five levels of consciousness. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And so what are they? Can you talk to us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, and so all each individual goes through this journey. All of humanity is going to go through this journey. We're taking a longer time is because the collective journey, but each individual is going through it. Um, but so level one is called disoriented, and it's called disoriented because you don't know where you're going. You're just kind of like a pinball getting bounced around, and it's the level of the victim mentality where, hey, I'm doing the best I can. I just got dealt the crappy hand of cards. I'm playing my cards the best that I can, and that's where the majority is in.
Hmm.
But then level two is called goal oriented, and this is where actually the collective is in level two. The collective is driven by level two. So the majority is still in level one, but they think level two is the end of the game because this is where you get success at. Um, by the way, on each of these levels, there's a lesson per level, and there's
Hmm.
also a massive mistake that you would make that would keep you trapped or failing at that level. So level one, the lesson that you're going to learn is health, which is taking responsibility for your body. So when your body's attacking you, that's the ultimate victim mindset. That you're like super victim. It's one thing when the world's coming at you, but when your body's attacking you, now you're a super victim. So
Wow.
again, as you're going through this journey as awakening, you're taking responsibility. So the first thing to take responsibility for is your body, is your health.
Hmm.
And so if you've got, you know them by their fruits. If you've got horrible fruits in your health, it's because there's something in you. There's your body's not at ease and it's starting to manifest and it's talking to you. It's the first manifestation of your thoughts. And
Hmm.
so if you're not aware enough to pay attention to what your body's saying, because there's energy and motion that you're blocking, is why your body is starting to talking to you. Like, hey man, listen up. If your body can't get the message through, then it starts to go out into your external world out there and it starts trying to get the message. So
Hmm.
once you've handled level one, you're no longer a victim. You're of circumstance. You realize you're a creator of circumstance. Level two is goal oriented. So you set your goals, and it's basically not thy will but mine be done. It's going to be done no matter what. No, nobody going to stop me once I set my goal. And there is a time for that. There's a season for that to start to develop your awareness of your power. And so you set the goals, you make them happen, and you become very successful in that level. And again, this is the level that humanity thinks is the end of the game.
Hmm.
Uh, but humanity has to what's happening right now is we're shifting because we have to go from level two to level three.
Hmm.
And level three is called journey oriented. And the reason you have to is because in level two, you're still a consumer. Level one and level two, you're a consumer. But see, we were born creators, created to create, but we've been conditioned to consume, and we're like black holes. So we've got this full-on creator power. created in the likeness and image of God. We have the full power of God. We've turned against ourselves as consumers because we've been conditioned to think we're consumers. So we think there's something missing and we're trying to fill the void. But we turn into these full-on black holes. And level one, it's not really that big of a deal because all you're hurting is yourself, mostly. But level two, now you're starting to develop your power, but you're using your power to consume. And that's why we've been destroying the planet. We've been destroying the rainforests because we've been seeking for our happiness out there. But I don't care how many rainforests you tear down, you're never going to find it out there because what you're looking for is within you. And that's what happens in level three is you stop. You see, level two, you think that you're a human doing that's love for what you do. But in level three, you realize, oh, I'm not a human doing, I'm a human being, and I'm not love for what I do, I'm love for who I am. But I've got to love who I am first. And I got to know who I am. Because in level one and level two, you're trying to become who you think that you're supposed to be, who you should be, according to what you were trained, domesticated, indoctrinated to be by your teachers, preachers, friends, family, media, and government. So the level three is the shedding of the programming. And that's where, so level one, you live in the past, creates depression. Level two, you live in the future, creates anxiety. Level three, you live in the present moment, which it doesn't create peace. You experience the peace that's always been present. Mm-hmm. So those are the first three steps of the journey. And that's where humanity is going. That's why we had to have the lockdown, because like all this stuff is a physical manifestation. There's a metaphysical cause for every physical manifestation. There's something going, the unseen is moving the scene. By the time it shows up in our physical awareness, there's already been so many messages along the way said, hey, get on a different path. So once we get to a problem of a full-on pandemic and shut down, lockdown, it's because we didn't listen for a long time. We didn't take the feather strokes, the nudges, the 2x4s. So we got the cosmic 2x4s that are trying to wipe, because it'll wipe your entire life out from underneath you. And the same thing will happen for the collective. And so we had to get off of the hamster wheel. We had to stop for just a moment because we're creatures of habit. You know, we have 60,000 thoughts a day, 95% of them the same ones we have yesterday. So we got to stop that pattern, the habit, and end the trance, transcend and wake up. And that's what, where we're moving into now, is getting back to peace. Level three is the death. Level four is where the resurrection occurs. So do you have any, before I go on in, because I haven't really defined level three too much, and then we got 4 and 5. You got anything that you want to say so far?
So level one, life is happening to me, right?
Yes.
So very exactly said, victimhood mentality. I'm a victim, like poor me, why did I get born into this family, these circumstances, like just having that narrative kind of keep us down and prevent us from being our great self, the great self that our soul came on this planet to be, right? To experience. And then level two, we slowly start to shift to life might be happening for me, right? So there are these opportunities out there, and I'm going to pursue them and achieve the success that I think will make me happy. Am I correct?
Correct.
And then level three, we reach that success and we're like, okay, maybe it really wasn't anything that I needed to get from the outside. Maybe I need to take a journey inwards, and perhaps life is happening through me.
Yeah. In level three, when you actually truly experience level three, you merge with everything for all of eternity. You become because it's what's happening in level one and level two is it's the growing of your separate self, but it's an egoic false identity, and it's not you, and you identified with it. So it's growing and it's making you feel more and more separate from the source. But then in level three, it's like, in level one, just imagine the ego is like a balloon that's just laying there with no air in it. Level two, you blow the thing up. So now it's like really, really big. Now you got a big ego. But how you get to level three is you pop it. And now the ego is gone. And now because the balloon was keeping you from, like, the inside was keeping away from the outside. But when you pop the balloon, now it's all one again. So the egoic identity, the separate self, the illusionary self goes away in level three, and you experience the oneness.
Wow.
And
life is happening as me. So it's that exactly as you said, that I am one with the world.
Yeah.
Wow. Very powerful. Okay. Let's go to the next step.
So what you get, so level one and level two, and even level three, are all about what's in it for me. Now, level three, you find you get yours. because you realize that you've had it the whole time. It was never lacking. It was never missing. Um, my favorite metaphor for level 3 is the Wizard of Oz, where you got the Lion, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and Dorothy all going to the wizard to try to get something. So level 2 is you're in Oz. If I can just get to the wizard, then I can get what I want. But at some point, you're going to get to the wizard, and or hopefully you don't even have to make it all the way to the wizard. You got some like Robin Williams and Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley. They made it to the wizard, and they're like, there's nothing here. But then they gave up hope because that was all they ever rested their beliefs on. They made it. They won the game of level 2, but they didn't know there was 3 more levels beyond that. So they lost hope because they didn't know what to do from that, because they were high performers, and they were, well, what do I do now? Well, what you do is less. For level 3, for the question is, what more can I do in level 2? The question, what more can I do? In level 3, the answer is less. Do less, be more. And then once you be, then level 4, the doing is going to come from the being. So level 3, you find everything you're looking for, because you realize that it was in you the whole time. The Lion, Tin Man, Scarecrow, they had it all in them the whole time. The journey revealed it. So now it's revealed to you that everything you've been searching for, it was an inside job. You've always had it. You just couldn't see it because you were looking out there. So you go within, and then when you go within, you actually pop without. Like, it's all of a sudden you're out there. And so then what happens in level 4, you start to move back into this physical form, because you leave the physical form. In level 3, you're now the formless substance, the formless. You don't have a form anymore. You're just in this formless love. And then in level 4, you start to take form again. But this time you're taking form, but you have a conscious direction of the form, because you're one with the oneness. And now, instead of the world directing you, instead of letting the world tell you who you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to act, what's going to make you happy, you're already happy. So you're no longer doing it for happiness. You're doing it from happiness. So level 3 is called journey oriented, because about the journey. Level 4 is called value oriented, because now that you have everything that you're searching for, you don't try to get it anymore. You're never like, what's in it for me? What's this world have to offer me? You realize this world doesn't have anything to offer you. You have something to offer it. You didn't come here to get anything from this world. You came here to bring the gift that you are to it. And you're a conduit for love to be brought here to earth, to bring heaven to earth. And you're the conduit for that to happen. So level 4, you start to provide value. You start to give. And you're not in level 2, you're giving to get. People will give, but they're giving just to get. In level 4, level 4, you're giving because you realize that you're only giving to yourself, but it's in giving that we receive. And you realize the more that you give, the more that you have. And you're not doing it for the having, you're just doing it because that's who you are. You're full and whole and complete, and you're overflowing into the world around you. You become a fountain, you become a supernova. And so level 1, the lesson was health. Level 2, the lesson was wealth. Level 3, the lesson is happiness. Level 4, the lesson is relationships. And so you really get relationships in level 4, because you realize that relationships are not a place you go to get, they're a place you go to give. You can't be somewhere to go to get, because if you were going to get from a relationship, it would mean that you were under the illusion, the assumption that there was something missing in you. But in level 3, you remember your wholeness. And so from your wholeness, then you start to act, not for your wholeness, not to get anything to fill the void, but from that you're whole and complete, you overflow into the world around you. And so the only problem, because you're like, well, that's got to be the end of the game. It can't get any better than that. The only problem with level 4 is that you can't see the picture when you're inside of it. And what happened is in level 3, you became one with everything for all of eternity. Level 4, you move back into the perspective of being a separate self, but you have the awareness, the remembrance of who you truly are, your soul identity. But now you're back in a body, but you're perceiving reality from the body, and you're directing this body, you're directing your identity to serve humanity the best that you know how, but you can't see the full picture because you're looking from inside the picture.
Lens, yeah.
So level 5 is called soul oriented. And this is the not my will, but thine be done. This is when you surrender your life over to God. And it's basically how you would experience it is now it's like you've got a GPS system now. And because in level 4, you could have driven a path like 100 times. You're like, I know this road very well, but then your GPS it's like, say, level 5 GPS says, hey, take a left here. But level 4 says, no, I know where I'm going. I've got this. I've been here 100 times, and you go ahead and do that. But then all of a sudden you get about 5 hours down the road and there's a bridge out, and you're like, and you got to turn around and go back. So you couldn't see from a higher perspective. So a lot of people are like, I'm going to give my life to God, which would be level 5. Not my will, but thine be done, complete surrender. But what I say to that is, you can't give away something that you don't have. You don't have your life yet. So going through these 5 levels, this journey, everyone has to go through the journey, because you're taking responsibility, taking your life back, and you become sovereign. And then level 5 is the surrender. So it's sovereign surrender, it's the fullness, completion. Because in level 4, you're a leader, but the problem with being a leader in level 4 is you're not following. And if you're leading without following, you're a hypocrite. Now, it's no judgment on hypocrite, but it just doesn't work. So level 5, you're a leader and a follower at the same time, because you're following God, you're surrendering and yielding to God, and then the world around starts to yield and surrender to the guidance that's coming through you, not from you, but through you. And so that's the full journey. So in level 5, the lesson is spiritual connection, and so that's where it really happens. But the journey, you're severing your dependencies and your attachments to the world until you get to level 5. You've severed all the dependencies and the attachments, and then level 5, okay, now I'm a whole sovereign being, and now I'm going to hand this entire life over to God to use as directed. I'm not going to question. I'm just going to listen. And you tell me, if you say take a step, I don't see a step there, but you say go, and you walk by faith, not by sight, because you're not going to be able to see the step that you're being called to take, because the currency of heaven is faith, and level 5 is just pure faith, walking by faith, not by sight, because faith untested can't be trusted. If you know how to do it, it doesn't take faith. If it doesn't take faith, it's not big enough. You're still playing small, because the only thing you're in control of is your smallness. So you let go of control in level 5, which means you also let go of your smallness. And now you're in the love that people don't get to experience, because they're so busy trying to control love that they remove themselves from it, because love is uncontrollable. It's the only thing that's uncontrollable. All your suffering, you control that. In fact, you create that. All your smallness, you can control that. In fact, you create that, but you can't control love. You can't control peace. And so you surrender, and now you get to receive those unconditionally, because you're not putting conditions on what has to happen for you to have or give them.
So you're kind of going back to your true core, which is, the core of love, the core of light, and kind of removing all these limitations that society has placed on us and kind of conditioned us to believe that need to be there because, quote unquote, it's not realistic, or, that's not possible, and kind of just removing all that and just going, allowing light to be revealed through you in the most magical way that is beyond your wildest imagination.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I was in level 2, I got really good at the world and figure out the recipes to make a bunch of money, and I could just pull money right out of thin air. Like, I got good at that, but it was still under my own control. And then from level 2, then I just let it all go. I just surrendered it all. And the life that I experience now, I mean, it's miracles that it's impossible to fathom. You can't, you could spend 1,000 years to try to calculate and orchestrate, and you would never be able to figure out how to do the things that are happening around me, and by me just taking the steps. And I would say life is an 18-inch journey from the head to the heart. I say from the mind through the emotions to the heart, from slavery to freedom, from Egypt to the promised land. And so these three, it's like this. It's the 3 parts of the journey. It's only a 2-step journey, but there's 3 aspects of it. The first aspect is the ideal self. This is where people are perceiving reality from, because they're being who they think they're supposed to be, because they think this is who people would love. And they're still trying to earn their love. They don't think that they're worthy of love, so they're doing things for love rather than from it. So they built this false self, this identity, the ideal self, the fake smile. But underneath that is the real self. So there's ideal self, underneath is a real self. This is what you really feel like. You're hiding this is what you're hiding behind the fake smile. This is I'm not enough. I'm too fat, I'm too old, I'm too short, I'm too whatever the thing. And you're building the mask to try to get away from the pain of feeling like you're not enough.
Mhm.
That if you could just sit in the discomfort of your real self, because we're not here to feel happy, we're here to feel fully. When you can feel it fully, that's when the supernova happens. When it flips and you're not trying to consume anymore, you don't need to consume anything. You're okay just as you are. And then the energy and motion goes out into a movement and you get to your true self. So seek first the kingdom, and the kingdom of God is where? Within you. So this is you dropping into the kingdom of God, and then seek first the kingdom, all else will be added. What happens is the kingdom then directs your emotions, your energy and motion, and then your emotions then direct your mind, and then your mind then directs the world.
Mhm. So your true self is the version of you that embodies the God force.
Correct. It's infinite, internal, perfect, whole, and complete, always has been and always will be.
Wow. Wow. Super powerful. So
Uh,
you've been
mhm.
on this journey, you've kind of experienced all five levels of consciousness. I have a question. How long did it take you to kind of get out of the first one, which was disoriented, to goal oriented? Like, how
uh,
long was that journey?
I mean, I spent my whole life in level one, not aware of it, not knowing. I was a
Mhm.
broke, ignorant, blackout, drunk, atheist beach bum. And then what happened is I was mentioning this earlier. When it's time to get a lesson, when it's time to get a message, when it's time to go on to a different path, it starts as a feather stroke. If you don't get that message, then it's the nudge. If you still don't get it, if you still don't change the directions, then the 2x4, shove 2x4, it'll go however far it's got to go. Well, how my leaving level one, the awakening began was I got a DUI on January 1st, like 15 minutes, New Year's, 15 minutes in. I'm like, oh, what a great New Year. But I still didn't get the lesson. So August 24th of that same year, I was blackout drunk driving and I rear-ended a car at a stoplight and I went to jail that night. And August 24th happens to be my mom's birthday. So of all the
Wow.
days, and she's the only person I had to call. So I sat in jail like the reason I was blackout drunk every night is because I was running away from my real self, which I didn't know
Mhm.
that's what I was doing. But it was so painful. There's so much pain that was packed and stacked inside of me that I was running away from. The only thing I could find was just to numb it out. So it was like an experience of peace. The only experience of peace I could find when I was completely blackout, just completely numb to it,
Mhm.
and that was my only reprieve. So what happened? I'm sitting in jail and I can't run anymore. I can't hide anymore. I can't numb anymore. And I'm sitting there with me, and I made a decision that day. But what the decision was, how it happened, because I'm just sitting there beating myself up. You're worthless piece of crap. I can't believe it. You could have killed somebody. Nobody got hurt, but they could have. And then there was this idea that happened, and I was like, wait a minute, you could have killed somebody, John. Like, yeah, I know. Well, but listen, if you could have killed somebody, that means one of your decisions could hurt somebody. Well, guess what? If one of your decisions could hurt somebody, what could another decision do? Well, it could help somebody. Well, John, if your decisions can hurt somebody or help somebody, then your decisions matter. And if your decisions matter, guess what? That means you matter.
You
I'm like,
matter.
oh,
Mhm.
and see, that's the reason I was worthless, blackout drunk, because I didn't know that I mattered. And that moment, I realized that I mattered. And in that moment, I made a new decision. So all change happens in an instant. And the instant is the moment that you actually decide. And so I decided from this moment forward, never again will my actions hurt someone. They were going to help people. And that's how I got into level two, was through
Mhm.
that sitting in jail face to face with myself and my real self. And so I had to make a new decision, and I began the journey right there.
Wow.
So,
So light can be revealed through darkness, right?
oh,
So
it's always every one of them. I always say that every moment is a gift from God. Even the moments that you don't like, but especially the moments that you don't like, because what's happening is we put a meaning on a moment, but the moment didn't have any meaning to it. It was because all there is love, but you aren't experiencing it because you don't see the world as it is. You see the world as you are. So you put a meaning on the moment. You judge the moment. Why you judge the
Mhm.
moment? Because you're judging yourself, and now you've resisted what the gift, the present moment had for you, because you didn't unwrap the gift, because you didn't go below the surface, because nothing is as it appears to be. That you
Yes.
don't know what's going on beneath it because you haven't looked beneath what's going on beneath your own judgment, your own ideal self. So every big awakening happens by a moment that you reject, you resist, you judge, and then facing it and going through it. And then, oh, wow, that was just me sitting on the throne as the judge. And that's never been my role. My role is to receive the kingdom as a child of God, to inherit the entire kingdom. But I didn't think that I was worthy. So I got to let go of my conditions that I've placed upon love trying to get there. And each one of those face to face, because you're face to face with your fears of
Mhm.
not being worthy of love. And when you are okay with not being worthy of love, you realize, oh, on the other side, I'm still alive. I'm actually fine. I'm okay. And then you can start to grow and expand because you stop controlling.
Super powerful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Such a great reminder for all of us listening that we are worthy of love and pretty much all the, all the light and all the fulfillment and all the pretty much everything that our soul is made of. We're worthy of tapping into that and feeling that and experiencing that every given moment of our day. So beautiful, beautiful reminder. Thank you so much. And how can the listeners get your book?
If you just go to jonathanearthwaking.com,
Hmm.
there's three buttons on there. There's going to be one, you can download my book for free. You can get the audio and the PDF version. Just download it right there for free. Another thing, we've got an event called Awaken Life Live that built around the 5 levels of consciousness. So you take a journey through the 5 levels at that it's a 2-day online event. You can attend that for free as well. And then the third button on there, you could come visit the village if you'd like to come experience heaven on earth for yourself, get to experience it in physical form. And we've got events coming up. We got events going on every now and again here at the village, probably every 3 months. We got one coming up soon called the Remember Experience. But yeah, just go to jonathanearthwaking.com and you can find out about all that stuff. Download the free book, go to the free event. We've had tens of thousands of people attend that event. People show up to this event dying of cancer. Like literally, there's 4 people that I know for certain were on hospice when and had a 0% chance of surviving. They were going to be dead in less than a month on hospice, and all of them have now completely turned around. They're not just surviving; they're thriving, come back to life. We've healed cancer, we've healed COVID, we've healed anything that you can think of. People come into that event suicidal; they're about to kill themselves if it wasn't for this event. And you'll see. Remember, we said earlier, all change happens in an instant.
And
You'll see the moment the decision happens, and you'll watch the breakthrough. And we do those live, real time, and you'll get to witness it. So
wow,
yeah,
the
check it out.
power of the truth, the power of love. Wow, it's super powerful. And wow, I got goosebumps just listening to you. Oh,
Yeah,
amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Jonathan. It's been honestly an honor and such a pleasure to have you on. And thank you for sharing your journey and for sharing your wisdom. And I really hope that we can all die before, um, you know,
we wake before we
before we,
die.
yeah, to wake up before I die. But as you said, we have to die first, right? So that the death of the
Hey,
ego
that
kind
was
of has,
good. That was
yeah.
good. You got
So
it.
I do
That was good.
have to die first, death of the
Yes.
ego,
Die
and
before
then the
you
birth of,
die.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Good job.
wonderful. Thank you so, so much. And I hope to see you soon in Costa Rica.
All right. Yeah, come on down. We'd love to see you here.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and speak soon.